Greetings, students, and welcome back to this week of Distant Learning with Mr. Wong. Today's assignment deals with adding integers. We do have homework for today, and it will be on the last slide. As there is no book, go ahead and copy and complete the questions on this final slide. Links to the homework are also on eCampus. Let's continue. Adding integers. Let's take a look and investigate by taking a look at the activity, adding integers with the same sign. The question posed, use integer counters to find -4 plus -3. In the picture diagram, if we were to take 4 negative counters and then add 3 negative counters, what will we end up with? The answer is a total of 7 negative counters. We have a number 7, and since they're negative, we use a negative sign to represent the integer -7. So, -4 plus -3 equals to -7. Let's think of it as if there are 4 bad guys and 3 bad guys, I'll end up with more bad guys, correct? Yes, absolutely. Let's take a look at activity 2. Adding integers with different signs. Let's use integer counters to find -3 plus 2. In the box on the left, we combine 3 negative counters and 2 positive counters. 3 negatives go in the box, as well as 2 positives. Total will have 3 negative counters and 2 positive counters. In this case, each negative will cancel out each positive. When that happens, what do we have left when they cancel out? That's right, we have 1 extra negative counter left. The result will be -1. So, -3 plus +2 equals -1. An example you can consider is if I were to clone you, and that clone is maybe an evil version, with all the abilities, brains, smarts, and stats as you, and let's say they were to compete against each other. You know each other's tricks, so how would you compete against maybe a negative you? It would cancel out. However, if there are 3 negative yous and there are 2 positive yous, there's an extra -1. Let's take a look at the key idea and copy this down into your notes. Adding integers with the same sign. Go ahead and copy the key idea, the title, the words, and the numbers. Please pay close attention as I read aloud. Adding integers with the same sign. Add the absolute values of the integers, then use the common sign. In the first example, we have 2 plus 5 equals 7. Remember, there is an invisible positive symbol in front of the 2 and the 5. So really, it's 2 positives plus 5 positives. You'll end up with 7 positives. Just like activity 1, we have 2 negatives plus 5 negatives. You'll end up with more negatives, and result with a -7. So, the trick is, if the signs are the same and you're adding, combine them and keep the sign. Pause the video now to give yourself ample time to copy the notes before proceeding. Welcome back. Let's continue. Using the rules we just established and your notes, let's try and add the integers with the same sign. Find -2 plus -4. What do you think you'll get? Let's check to see if your result's the same by using a number line to check your answer. We should get a -6 as a result. Remember, the rule says to add the absolute value. So we have -2 plus -4. The absolute value will make this a 2, and we'll make this a 4. When we combine them, we'll get 6, and then we use the common sign -6. Taking a look at the number line, our first number is -2. We always start at the 0, and when we go to -2, we move 2 spaces to the left. And when we're adding -4, we move 4 spaces to the left. Where do we end up? we end up at -6. Now try these on your own. Go ahead and copy these problems in your notebook and try to work these out and see if the results will match the same in the video. Pause the video now to complete the task and then resume once you've finished. Hello, welcome back. Let's check to see if your solutions match the correct ones in the video. 7 plus 13. This is something we're really familiar with. The result is 20. How about number 2? -8 plus -5. You guessed it, -13. And finally, question 3, -20 plus -15. Imagine there's 20 bad guys in a circle, and then you're adding 15 more. We'll just have more bad guys. The result, -35. Thinking about that last example with good guys and bad guys, what if the signs were different? Let's take a look at the key idea. Go ahead in your notebook, copy these down into your notes. The titles, the words, and the example. Follow along as I read aloud. Adding integers with different signs. Subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater absolute value. Then use the sign of the integer with the greater absolute value. In this case, 8 plus -10 results in -2. In the second example, -13 plus 17 equals +4. Let's think of it as an example between good guys and bad guys. Again, if you were cloned and you had identical abilities and powers, brains, and stats, who would win the competition? Would 8 good guys win against 10 bad guys if they're the same character? Well, no. They'll cancel out just like we use counters, and we'll have 2 extra bad guys as a result. In the second example, it's a similar case, but we have 4 extra good guys in this scenario. The result will be +4. Pause the video now to give yourself ample time to copy notes, and then resume once you've finished. Hello again. So, after copying these notes, do you think you can follow a trick? Let's see. So all we have to do is just subtract these values from each other if the signs are opposite, and just keep the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. In other words, just subtract them if the signs are different, and whichever number looked bigger, use that sign as your final answer. Let's take a look at 2 examples and see how the rule works when we solve these questions. Add integers with different signs. In part A, it wants you to find 5 plus -10. Thinking about that good guy versus bad guys, what do you think the result will be? Let's check and see if our theory is correct. We have a -5 as a result. Again, subtract the absolute values from each other. 10 minus 5 is 5, and use the sign of the larger looking number. The result is -5. How about part B? -3 plus 7. Do I have more negatives or more positives? And how many more? That's right. The answer will be 4 extra positives, so the answer is +4. Again, when the signs are different, subtract them from each other and use the sign of the larger looking number. 7 minus 3 is 4, and since the 7 is larger looking, it's positive, so the result is +4. What if we had 3 negatives and 3 positives? Or what if we had 10 positives and 10 negatives combined? What will happen? Let's take a look. Go ahead and copy this rule down. Integer relationships with opposites. 2 numbers that are the same distance from 0, but on the opposite sides of 0, are called opposites. For example, -3 and 3 are opposites. We call this rule the additive inverse property. The sum of an integer and its additive inverse, or opposite, is 0. In these examples, 6 plus -6 is 0. -25 plus 25, also 0. So with algebra using variables, a plus -a equals 0. Again, integers are the same distance from 0, the same looking number, but different signs. opposite sides of the 0. So what is the opposite number of 3? Negative 3. What about negative a million? What's the opposite of that? Positive 1 million. Here's a tricky one. What's the opposite of elephant? Brilliant. Negative elephant. So, opposites, or additive inverses, have a sum of 0 when you combine them. Let's see this rule in action. I want you to find negative 12 plus 12. What do you think? It's going to be 0 because using the additive inverse property, they cancel each other out. 12 and negative 12 are additive inverses, or opposites, so their sum is always 0. Here's the homework for this activity. Go ahead and pause the video now and copy these questions before answering. You may also use the link on eCampus to display these questions in a document. Let's follow along as I read aloud these questions for you. Tell how the commutative property and associative properties to find the sum mentally. So you have 9 plus negative 17 plus negative 9. What will happen? Do you see any rules we can use with some of these numbers? Do you notice anything special? Let's continue with number 36. Negative 13 plus 27 plus negative 18. What will we get? Question 40 uses the diagram of the lithium atom. A lithium atom has positively charged protons and negatively charged electrons. The sum of the charges represent the charge of the lithium atom. So I want you to find the charge of this atom here. Well, it looks like there are protons and electrons. What do you think will happen with these if we combine them? And last but not least, use mental math to solve the equation. B plus negative 2 equals 0. Our goal is to find the value of this B. But what do we need to get a result of 0? That's the question. This homework assignment will be due by Tuesday evening, 11:59 p.m., April 21st. Pause the video now again to copy these questions or use the link on eCampus to get a document to pull up. Until next time.